least it's not a respirator.
Got our logo on it. Never get away with it. Never get away.
All right, how about seeing a few words? You're like your side of the story.
Yeah. Where do I start? I'm hard to believe I'm at this point, you know, I was laughing. We don't count how many years we got left. David and I used to say how many smoke schools we had left to go, you know. So we got 4 more smoke schools and we'll retire. But, yeah, it's been a pleasure and honor. So many memories being here this long and good friends out here and people. It's lifelong friends that we've made, and there's things that just a lot of things that people like about to see, meet, touch. You know, I was thinking one day I actually managed Tamar, so one week I was doing blue hot specials, the next week I put house fires out. You know, it was like the first week I was here, we had a house fire. So, but things like that just kind of stand out in mind. Of course, the board meetings. I think Gary was probably one of the ones that was around when I first started, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
He could tell you how the board meetings were, how long they were. So, and some excitement's there. So, just want to thank Ashley and on the staff. I really miss you guys.
Thank you for your service and thank you mostly for your friendship.
Congratulations.
Okay, y'all feel free to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like. Shouldn't be too long. We've got another special presentation. Kimberly Hornberger is going to talk to us about purple air sensors, and she's come all the way up here from Raleigh. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to her.
Being at your board. I'm Kimberly Hornberger. I've got a few slides to show you about our project that we've been working together with the Asheville-Buncombe Air Quality Agency over the last year. We've thrown around a lot of titles to this project, and I just call it the Purple Air Sensor Partnership for today. So I wanted to just do a quick background on this project that we've been working on. We started this project after Hurricane Helene hit last year. Our leadership concerned about the possibility that there would be a lot more fires burning in the area, so they wanted us to do some additional monitoring in addition to the regulatory air monitoring that we do. We were throwing around some ideas of things that we could do. We didn't have any extra sensors or equipment that we could access, so we found this EPA sensor loan program that we could borrow the purple air sensors from, and so we all worked together to borrow some sensors, and we started deploying those the end of last year. So we've been working on this for a little over a year now. I wanted to share some of the, well, I'll let you know about our every Wednesday starting in last year. So I've been doing it a little over a year. We've got these meetings with TAQ and Asheville-Buncombe and a couple of our regional offices where we all discuss the things that we're working on. And this is how we kind of got the idea going and implemented it. I have a couple of pictures on this slide of purple air sensor, that's in the middle. And then we also, we had some portable eBay monitors that are similar to some of the, or same brand as some of the monitors we use. They are non-regulatory, so emergency response type monitors. I wanted to include a map just so you could see the larger green rectangles are where our regulatory monitors are. So one in Asheville is at the Board of Education, and then the other one on the right is in Spruce Pine, and then all the little dots are purple air sensors. So just wanted to show you the coverage of the purple air sensors in Buncombe County. Some of them are the ones that we operate, and other ones are public run. There's some other groups that have some purple air set up in the area as well. So I just wanted to do this little and then just some of the daily average data that we collected. This shows from January 1st to October 31st of this year. And you can see all of the sensors that we have are trending pretty well together. And there's a few spikes throughout the year. You can see at the end of March there, that's when we had some wildfires, the big wildfire in South Carolina. And there was the Canadian wildfires that I'll mention. That spiked it up a little bit too. And that red line is the daily exceedance limit. So when you go over that, that exceeds the national standard for air quality for a particular matter. And I did want to mention that some of our sensors picked up high daily readings, but the regulatory monitor for that during these wildfires. That just gives us some extra coverage in the region where we might not reach that monitor. And then this is just one sensor. I wanted to show that it kind of almost looks like just one line, but the purple airs have two channels, so they take two different readings. And one of the things that we look at is we want those two readings to be pretty to agree with each other. And that's just a good example that sensor looks like it's operating properly. There's not a whole lot of quality assurance with sensors as much as our regulatory monitors we have. So that's just one way we have to make sure that sensor looks like it's working properly. Here is just from that Cable Rock fire that I mentioned earlier. I just wanted to show where those fires were on the left there, and then this smoke blew up towards Asheville, but in this picture, you can kind of see that it only kind of hit the southeast side, and it wasn't really reaching up to the northwest where the regulatory monitor would be. And these screenshots, I think these were 10-minute averages, so they were picking up some really high numbers, but then not all the hourly averages were that high. So just really shows how the smoke was moving really fast. You know, for 10 minutes, it could be very high and then go back down to a lower number. And then this is just the Canadian wildfires that reached the area. That was the end of May or June. We saw our purple air sensors helped us to see some of the smoke. And then just a map of their website at that time. You can see. And then just in the last couple of weeks, the news, and I'm sure everyone in this room has heard about the fires that have been happening in the area, and this is really one of the reasons why we wanted to continue this fire project and keep the centers going, so that if there would be increased fire risk and smoke risk continue over the next year, that we would still have extra monitoring in the area for to see what was. So we did, and this is just the daily averages from this month, beginning of November through about the middle of November. We did some high hourly readings, but then the daily averages were still well under that 55. And then I just wanted to talk about some of the challenges and successes we've had. I think with the purple airs, they can be hard to find a good place to plug them in Wi-Fi. That was one thing we had to look for. Some of the sensors we borrowed just wouldn't work. We had to swap them out with ECA, different ones that happened to us a few times. Asheville is very far from Raleigh, so having you guys to really set the sensors up and make sure be able to keep them running. And then, sorry, E-bands, I just wanted to mention this a little bit. We were never able to get them connected to give instant data, so the purple airs work a lot better for us to be able to get them on the public website. And then EPA was really quick to work with us on this project. So as soon as we had requested the purple airs, they sent them to us very quickly and suggested putting them for libraries and fire departments. So that's what we did. And we had a lot of staff that wanted to be involved in this in our ongoing communication. We've still been meeting every week and things we need to discuss to get care of. And then we all have more experience working with these purple airs. So if we get requests from the public, we can better assist with co-locate or answer questions. So it's kind of for that. And I think the last slide, I have some of Steve Ensley's picks from out in the field. I think that one on the left is Admin Library, and then Lester and Upward.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me in the meeting to share some of these thoughts.
I got several questions. So this program, is it going to continue in the next year and beyond? Is there an end date to it?
I think actually going to talk a little bit more later.
Okay.
We're currently in process of renewing our loan with the EPA. Get submitted a while back. I think the government shutdown has been delayed for pre-approving, but we are expecting they are supposed to meet next week and give us a response. But currently we're keeping things going as is. So.
And the coverage area, is it all of Western North Carolina, or at least the counties that were affected by the hurricane?
Right now, most of them are in Buncombe County. Then we have one in Togga County and one in Southeast.
Okay.
And then we're hoping to get a few more sensors, DAQ to run, and set up a few additional sites outside of Buncombe County, but in Western North Carolina.
And then
right now, most of them are.
I'm gonna let you guys have a chance in a minute. Just a technical question for my education. So a purple air sensor, you said it had 2 channels. So is that you look at both channels to make sure it's calibrated correctly, I guess?
Yeah.
Or it's reading consistently?
Make sure that the numbers, don't have 500 on one channel and 4 on the other channel, that they're pretty close in alignment. And then I usually do, make a chart every month to kind of look at those, and that's really the easiest way to see if those lines are pretty close, and, if they're not, then.
Okay. Other questions, guys? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we got our last meeting on the consent agenda, the minutes for September 10th. We'll entertain a motion to approve those. Give you a chance, Gary.
So moved.
Second by Gary. How's that? Any questions about the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we'll jump over unfinished business, which is none, to Ashley's director's report.
Okay, thanks, Joel. I have several items on here, but most of these are very brief, so I don't think that this will take up a lot of time. We have been doing this tropical storm Helene response recovery update. And before I get to that, one thing that I actually did not put on here was a moving update. We are not obviously using the meeting room at 35 Woodfin yet, but after we moved in, since we saw everyone last in September, we did have to vacate our old lab, and we had a couple of rooms at the Register of Deeds in the basement where they were letting us store some furniture since we moved around a lot. So we did have a large undertaking with all staff pitching in to move out of 4 rooms across the street. And so we got rid of all the extra furniture we had. We had to go through more files and put more files down in long-term storage. And it was a big undertaking. Hannah put together a big list of furniture, and we actually gave away what could have been a whole dumpster of furniture. We gave it away to other county departments. People came from all over the place and took furniture. It was great to get that done, and appreciate all the staff for all their hard work. It was kind of unexpected. The county said, well, when are you guys moving out? We need that space now. So, but luckily Hannah had already been working on it. So I apologize I should have mentioned that was going to be on the report, but we did spend a significant amount of time doing that. And then as far as the Helene update, I've been giving you guys an update on the demolitions that are part of the FEMA programs. It's the buyout program, and then also the the private property debris removal program. We reported previously that we processed around 150 applications for demolitions, asbestos removal, or they're actually all handled as if there's asbestos, so they have to be handled a certain way. And to date, they have actually only done, I believe, 42 total. We had 49 on the list. What we're finding, we think, is probably that people are dropping out of the program because they're just, wanting to get the work done quicker. But so far we have issued, like I said, around 42 permits for those programs. And James is working on getting those invoices paid.
Yeah, and just to add, the 7 specifically were ones that they sent us the list of ones they were going to go out and demolish. And when they went out there, they found out that someone had already done it previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under what permit?
That's a good question. Actually, we did find, we'll have to do a reckoning of them. Some of them actually did come and get a demo permit from us. There are some we need to check, but given the circumstances, I'm not sure, what we're going to do in regards to trying to find out who did it or not. But yeah.
Well, when you decide what you're going to do, let us know.
We can.
We have, like James said, we found several that that did have permits and then several that did not. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
And to make kind of a distinction here, so the group of homes that are being done through the FEMA program, most of them are residential homes, which normally are not required to follow federal regulations in regards to demolitions and asbestos. But for the most part, they don't have to. There's no federal regulations when a house has their own demolition. So that would only really be for our local program, the ones that pulled out. But because they're grouped together, that changes the definition. So all the FEMA ones are covered under NESHAP regulations, which are the federal regulations. But if an individual did it on their own home, that it would not be covered under those federal rules. So you wouldn't have that bit of regulation that you'd have to.
There's been a lot of demo work going on the French Broad and Swannanoa basins. Have those been permitted or not?
I would say we hope they all have been permitted, but I can't. I mean, we have not gone house to house to see which ones. I mean, some of the ones that you're seeing that are work being done now are ones that were in this program. There were a small amount of commercial properties. I believe the Moe's property that got a lot of press about, oh, why is that Moe's on Hendersonville Road still up? That was part of this FEMA process, and the FEMA process has just taken a long time. I'd have to run the numbers, but I know that we have had an increase in demolitions in general, demolition permits. Like I said, the big distinction for us, especially as far as severity of whether or not you're following, federal regulations trump everything else. And if it's commercial and it's federal regulation and you haven't got a permit, that's bad. But if it's a residential home that isn't under that federal regulation and they didn't get a permit, I mean, yeah, we still want them to get a permit. It's in our rules, but it's not, the level of severity is lower.
With the commercial buildings that are being demolished along the Swannanoa River on both sides of it probably are permitted under the federal.
I know some of them, there's a couple Swannanoa River Road addresses in that list. Yeah, I couldn't confirm exactly which ones are. I don't know if Mike has any info on or thoughts about like those, because he's more intimately involved in what demo permits he sees come across his desk.
Because there's a lot of demo going on now, and there's also a lot of dust involved in it.
All right, and those have been deemed immediately. What is the declaration, Mike? When with this big job, like with this FEMA job, they have been inspected and found to be unsafe or
Yeah.
yes. So they have to be treated as if there was asbestos present, even though they haven't had to be tested. And so they are supposed to be wetted down, and the contractors that are doing the work, there are people monitoring what's happening, just to make sure that everything is wetted down and the dust is, contained as much as possible.
Well, I just haven't seen any pickup truck with their yellow lights going with a permanent license tag on it. So I kind of wonder.
Yeah, and in general, we have been using what we call enforcement discretion somewhat with Helene. If we find someone has, torn down a house like that without a permit, we would likely if it was a federal job, issue a notice of violation, but not necessarily issue a fine. We understand it's a hardship. People's businesses and homes have been destroyed by the storm. So we're just trying to work with people. And but you're right. I mean, there are definitely some that are not going through the proper permitting process. So just want to make sure everyone's handling things safely as possible. So James said that I think that those have pretty much slowed down a lot. We're still seeing some come in, but that does seem to be slowing down.
Probably less than like maybe 5 in the last month.
So we are
and none on the current. I mean, right now they aren't sending this anymore right now. I don't know if it's complete. There's a contractor that waits for FEMA to send stuff over, and FEMA's has it. I don't know how long their checklist is to approve these demos for this project. Like Ashley mentioned, I think our original number was 140 or so permits that we had received applications for in this process, and we're at only 42, was it? Yeah, that have actually been demoed through the project. So yeah.
And the difficult part was we processed those as quickly as we could, and we entered 150, 140, 150 applications for them. And then, of course, 100 or so we haven't seen. So it was just, we aren't set up for large batch jobs like that. Obviously, this is not something that happens often. So I think we did the best we could to expedite things. I don't know how we would do it differently, but I think that the team did a great job. Mike, and with help from James and Alex, have been processing those. So no more questions about that. Brief update on the air curtain incinerators. We've been talking about those a lot. I think we talked about a no action assurance that allowed that was a letter from EPA that allowed the larger units to run without Title V air permits if they were operating to combust storm debris. And so EPA has since finalized a rule that would give an exemption for those larger units, similar to the smaller units. There's so many, there's several different regulations for these air curtain incinerators. So we are asking the ones that want to operate permanently to go ahead and apply for the air permits now that no action assurance has expired. And with this new rule change, if they are still processing storm debris, they can continue to operate without a permit. But what we're seeing is currently we have 3 that we've reported on that want to keep these units longer term. They're sort of transitioning and wrapping up storm debris. And while there is still storm debris around and they are still burning some storm debris, I believe, they are transitioning to just wanting to use these things for land clearing, open burning, just for debris in general. Some of these places are stump dump type operations, and Biltmore Estate is one. They obviously have a lot of their own debris that they manage regularly. So we have 2 applications in-house. One of them is on the agenda for approval tonight. It's the Asheville Affordable Treatment, and James will talk about that when we get to the permit. We also have an application for Biltmore Estate for an ACI, and there's one other one that we have not received the application for yet that we are expecting, a smaller one out in the Weaverville area. So we have a general permit that we issued a few years ago. Since it's a Title V permit, they have to go to public notice, EPA review 30 days. But with a general permit, we don't have to go back out to that public notice every time we issue a permit. So this one that we have in front of the board this evening, that one we have not issued a public notice on. We're issuing the same general permit that we issued 3 or 4 years ago. So we might go to public notice and just issue a newer permit as the rules change. The state's in the process of updating their rules, and EPA has indicated that they might be updating their rules again, trying to simplify them. So we'll see how that goes. And sort of related to air curtain incinerators, there's biochar units that we've had a lot of interest in, and we don't have any here in our area. There's one over at Haywood County, but they did get a special designation from EPA that the material is not waste material. So they're being handled a little bit differently. But again, we do not have it here. So, but it's basically an air curtain incinerator that produces a biochar product instead of ash. So we're kind of watching what's happening with that. But those have been operating, and we have not been receiving complaints. So the next thing I had was storm debris burning, and I really don't have much to report on that. We haven't been getting a lot of requests. We do have an area, I think it's in Black Mountain, where it's a neighborhood that has requested permission that we have given, and they've been burning periodically storm debris from their neighborhood. And we know that there's a lot of other folks burning storm debris, but we just have not received a lot of requests. Basically, they have to be at least 500 feet from the nearest occupied dwelling. So that's something that we look out for. And last on the list for the Helene update, I had non-regulatory temporary air monitoring and sensors like Kimberly was talking about. And you may have seen where the county and the city and the other municipalities updated their Helene recovery plans or adopted the Helene recovery plan with multi-jurisdiction involvement there. And we did submit for an application that EMS put in. There's an environmental monitoring component of the plan where they're looking at landslide monitors, river level type monitors, air monitors, and things of that nature. And as part of that, EMS put in for different technology upgrading systems and towers, communication towers, and it included some weather stations at 21 fire departments. And so we actually put in for 21 purple airs, actually more like double that, so that we would have backups. They included us in the application. And so I'm not sure when we'll find out, but if we are able to get more of these purple airs, we would be able to have one at all of the 21 fire departments, and it would be long-term for several years. So I think, like with the project Kimberly talked about, that's going to be another year. I'm not sure if it will be extended past that, but I think we felt like we could have issues for years to come. So we put in for that, and we'll see what happens. It would be work to manage those. It is extra work, but it's good to have the extra data for the community. So moving on, I had put on here, staffing update, soon to be vacant position with Mike's retirement. So we are working through plans on that. Mike's been training Alex over the last few years on the asbestos removal, the NESHAP requirements, and the demo permits, and they've been attending. Mike is a certified asbestos inspector and has other, credentials, and Alex has been attending those classes. And you have to work with someone else that's certified to get that certification. So Alex is eligible now, and he's putting in his application so that we will have a certified staff person to oversee that when, now that Mike's retiring. And also, the demo permits, it's a lot going on with that. And also we review all the city and county building permits. And so that's something that Alex and James are both, or Alex in particular is pretty well trained up on that, and James as well. The rest of us have been getting more training on just helping people that come in, filling out the applications. And so we're working on that. And Mike's also been spending some time training Allie and Steve and Alex somewhat on the stage one. We do a lot, 150 stage one vapor recovery inspections every year, stage one vapor recovery systems on the gas stations. So we're working through sort of dividing up those duties, and Mike's our most forward facing employee. So we're all going to be coming in more and working downstairs out of Mike's office, the forward facing unit there. So everybody's been great about pitching in, and we'll be more so, I'm sure. So
Question.
Yep.
Who does that scope of work in other counties, like in McDowell County or any of the surrounding counties that are not in our jurisdiction?
well, I mean, as far as like the demo permits, or
Yeah.
were you talking more about the stage one vapor recovery or
Any
both?
of that stuff that he does, it's in that scope. They have as a single agency that does that in those counties, or is it divided among other agencies, or?
It's mostly divided. For us, it's kind of unusual. We actually do all the Buncombe County building permit demolitions. We do the demolition program for Buncombe County government. And whereas every county is required to have a demolition permit program, City of Asheville has their own program, but years ago it was decided that air quality would do the demo permits for the county so that we could look at the asbestos removal permits at the same time. So it is a bit unusual. Normally that's the county permits and inspections office. It does the demo permits. And then the NESHAP, federal NESHAP, asbestos removal notification requirements. The three locals like us, Mecklenburg and Forsyth, the local air agencies are the only ones delegated that authority. So we do that in our 3 counties, but the other 97 counties, the NESHAP notifications go to the State Department of Health and Human Services, Health Hazards Control Branch in Raleigh.
Okay.
Yes. And then as far as like stage 1 vapor recovery inspections, that's done by the local air programs or the State Division of Air Quality.
So
does that.
DAQ does that vapor recovery program.
Yes, in the other counties.
So in Buncombe, the city and the county are separate in terms of the permitting.
Yes. And then in addition to that, again, we review all the city and county building permit, not all of them, certain ones that might be triggered for an asbestos review. So that's a lot. That's a lot of permits. I mean, we do over 300 what we call local demos and asbestos removals. We do 120 of NESHAP notifications last year, plus over 300 what we call the local. We actually have additional local requirements where when asbestos is removed from a home in Buncombe County, if it's known to be asbestos, they don't have as much requirements as far as having to test like they would a commercial building. But we do actually issue permits for that as well. So there is a little extra protection for public health, but it's also a lot of additional work to do, of course.
Thanks.
So again, we're working on dividing up those duties, and we'll kind of play it by ear with budget being a bit uncertain as far as when we'll be able to fill the position. So hopefully we'll have an update on that next time. And the next item I had on the list is the air quality rule amendments update. We did manage to get, we have 6 groups of rules for these rule updates. We did get groups 2 and 3. Group 1 has been on the board's SharePoint site in case you guys want to take a look at those. Groups 2 and 3 are up there now. And I don't have as much detailed memos yet because I'm trying to just get through them and get them up there. But I put the state's memos because they break down the different parts of each group and some paragraphs on each section. And then we have a spreadsheet on there and where we have highlighted anything that's different about our rules compared to the state so that you guys can look at the spreadsheet. And if you're seeing something or if you're interested in more refined details, and I'll be putting the memos with, more details up. I'm hoping to get 4, 5, and 6 up, trying to get through that quicker so that we can have all that up in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, or at least by the end of the year. And the state is looking at those with us also. So
When do you need us to take action on this?
Well, we'll have an update in January, so I need to meet with our rules contact at the state, and she has been reviewing them along with us, and so I need to kind of find out from her how long it's going to take for them to review. We're trying to give the state and the EPA at least a couple months for them to get a chance to look at them before we move forward, going to public notice and asking you guys to take action, because they would like to have a chance to review and comment on them before we go out to public notice, which makes sense. If they find an issue, we don't want to have to correct it and then go to public notice again. So hopefully in January I'll know more. I'm guessing it'll probably be March or so before we can really take any action.
Are there any major changes other than what you told us last meeting?
No, I don't think so. It's a lot of it is just correcting agency names and updated procedures. Some of the rules reference faxing, and now we have email and new processes, and so nothing really significant. But what's of interest, I think, to the board is just knowing what parts of our rules are different than the state, because that's where we're going to have to explain more, to the board and to residents of the county. Like our permitting rules, we permit more facilities. We have these asbestos rules that are more stringent. Fugitive dust, we have additional requirements where we can apply that rule to like development sites, things like that. So nothing really significant, I don't believe, that you guys aren't aware of. So wrapping up here, I just have a couple more items. Status of the federal grants for fiscal years 2025 and 2026. We did finally get the rest of our fiscal year. This is the federal fiscal year FY25 funds in September, right as the year was ending. Unfortunately, instead of getting level funding, we got about 88% total. I think I reported that to you guys last time and we weren't sure. We were trying to get an answer why that was. And what we've learned is that several other local air agencies in EPA Region 4 only got 88% of their what they were expecting for their full grant, their EPA 105 grant. And then several of the state agencies in Region 4 only got 94% of theirs. So it seems like there's a math error. And then there were some agencies that got the full amount and others that got much less. And Region 4 has acknowledged that maybe there's an issue there and they're looking into it. And it is possible that we could get a supplemental award. So this is basically we were expecting $222,000 and we received $196,000. So it's $26,000 short. So they've indicated they can give us a supplemental award. And, but again, we're waiting to find out when that will come, hoping that will come. But I don't think that we can apply it to last year's budget cycle. It will likely end up having to go into this year's funds. So we'll see what's happening with that. But it does seem to be a unique problem to EPA Region 4. But they've had a lot of staff turnover in the grants section. And the person that's now in the position seems very competent, and I'm hoping that they'll get it straightened out.
Did you say the DAQ received somewhere?
They received about
Reduction.
94% of theirs. So they were 6% shy. We were 12% shy. But that's pretty typical with what we're seeing in the States. So we're hopeful that we can get some additional funding. And again, for FY26, of course, we don't have a budget, but we are on the continuing resolution that Congress passed to reopen the government till the end of January. So when the House and the Senate did go into committee about budget, they did keep our funding pretty level. So we're very hopeful that that's how it will shake out for FY26. But again, with budget uncertainties, we're just kind of trying to hold spending, not this ozone site and things like that coming up. We're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen.
So the September funding applies for the fiscal year past July till next June, correct? Is that when that funding applies to?
Yes. So we have drawn down the funding. The confusing thing is the EPA FY25 funding is what we draw down in Buncombe County fiscal year FY26. So the FY25 money we just got from EPA in September, which was September 30th was when FY25 ended for EPA. We started drawing down in July of this, not July. Did we draw that down?
July.
Okay. So we are sitting in our account and we're not going to draw that down. Actually, we did. We started drawing it down this last July. Sorry, I get confused. So we have drawn it down now. And the next round of funding that we get, hopefully we'll start getting funding in January. We'll sit in our account until July when the county fiscal year starts again. So
Be applied to next budget year.
right. So the next time that we're planning to draw down this funding will be in July of 26, which is Buncombe County fiscal year FY27. But the good news for us is that we have a few months. Some of the other agencies had to actually let people go because the funding was so late. There was about 10 to 15 people in Florida local programs that got laid off because they needed the money to pay their staff. Then they couldn't, getting the fact that we got our grant 7 months late was a real problem for people. But we were very fortunate that we have been able to draw ours down several months later. And that really helped us a lot. Okay. So as far as the FY25 budget year update, there is a graph in the packet there. And sorry, my computer has gone to sleep. But if you look at that, the attachment, it does show that we ended FY25. We did pull a little bit of money out of our fund balance, 33,362. So, we had budgeted to pull down, balance the budget with fund balance 117,000, but fortunately we only drew down 33,000. So it shows us having a fund balance at the end of the year of around that 713,000. We have a footnote down below. If that's modified accrual and full accrual, fund balance is only 236,000. So that's the thing the county's been pointing out to us is, as long as we're here operating, we have access to the larger modified accrual amount. But what they report to the state fiscally, good accounting practices, you have to account for all your liabilities with retirements and things of that nature. And so that means our full accrual fund balance is more like 236,000. And of that, over 100,000 is in assets. So liquid, if you factor that in, our fund balance is really only like $112,000.
Yeah, that's the difference, Ned. I mean, we have to allow for like David Brinkman's retirement every month, right? It comes through the agency's budget, not the county.
So in other words, the 700,000 we can't spend.
Well, it is available for spending, they have said. So as long as we're here operating, we can pull that down. However, if the county the county and the city were to decide that, hey, maybe we're not going to have an air pollution program, they would want that money and take it into the general fund to help pay future retired employees benefits because, there's the pension program and the health insurance benefits and things that retirees get. So as long as we're here operating and the county has, is supportive of us, which they have been, they will let us draw down that amount. They have said.
Is there a time limit on how long we pay for David's retirement?
It's not just
Well,
David,
it's not
though.
just
It's
David,
everybody.
no.
It's David's
Well,
example.
there is health insurance a benefit, and so we do have a few employees that we are paying their health insurance. And when those employees age out, basically when they get to be 65 and their Medicare takes them over, then we don't have to pay that anymore. But there's a couple employees that we're currently paying that. It's like 18,000 a year.
So Mike is going to cost us money.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something that the county commissioners had a budget retreat on November the 13th. And if you're interested, they have a really good explanation. I watched it on YouTube. It's on the YouTube channel. They explain all of this. And what they told the commissioners was that, there's in 2015, they changed the benefits. And so any employees that were hired after 2015, they don't get that benefit where you're with the county 25 years, county pays your health insurance until Medicare takes you over, you age out. But there's 600 employees currently here that are getting that benefit. You know what I mean? So it's a long time. It's a lot of money, and it's something that we have to keep budgeting for every year. But they did a good job of explaining fund balances and retirement benefits and the different ways that it's paid. But I don't want to try to explain it.
You said that was on November 13th.
Yeah. So if you go to the Buncombe County YouTube site or the Facebook page and go back to November 13th, it's called the Budget Retreat. It was November 13th. It's really, I thought it was fascinating. They talk about bonds but they talked about OPEB, other post-employment benefits. There's a trust. And we pay the same way. We pay directly out of our budget for these health insurance benefits for retirees. We also pay into something called OPEB, and I'm not going to explain it correctly because I'm not a finance person, but I think of it kind of like insurance. It's literally a trust fund. And until the county pays so much into the trust fund, so the air quality budget is paying into both of these things, just like the county is. Until they pay so much into the trust fund, they have to keep direct paying as well. So hope I didn't butcher that too good. The finance people are watching. So, so that's the update for the fiscal year. Annual reports. I know we're running out of time here, but in the packet, thanks to Hannah and Allie, we have kind of fallen behind a little bit on our annual reports. We did put the FY23 and the FY24 annual reports in the board packet. We're going to put those on the website. This is data that we are required to track for the Environmental Management Commission every year. It's things like how many permits did you issue? How many inspections did you do? How many violations did you issue? How many fines? What were the civil penalties that you issued and what did you collect? Lots of data like that. And then we have some narratives and some graphs showing data as far as the monitoring sites. So I don't want to get into that in too much detail. I don't know if anybody had a chance to check that out, but like to show you guys some statistics and do some graphs and things. Didn't want to try to do that for this meeting because I knew we had a lot on the agenda, but if anyone has any comments on these annual reports, it's just looking to see, there's another annual report we do for the city and one for the county that I thought I put in there. I think I see that one too. It's a lot more brief. They just want to know who are your board members, what are your accomplishments from last year, what are your goals for next year. I thought I'm not seeing that one in there, but just wanted you guys to see those. If you have any comments or questions, just let us know. And thanks to Hannah and Allie for compiling everything. We can hoping to get it out to the board more timely in the future. And I think it's time for Steve's monitoring update.
Good afternoon. So I wanted to report our completeness for this year. Ozone season ended October 31st, and our year completeness unvalidated yet, but is 93.76. That's increase. The ban is still ongoing. It's full calendar year, but at this point we're not so big spend on that. A little items I wanted to mention. We finally completed the loan transfer of the ozone equipment to USDA. All that signed and transferred over. So we're glad that completed. We're ahead of they will help with that providing assistance. And since the last meeting, we've had a systems audit by the state. I wouldn't call it a full systems audit. They do an audit of their regional offices ahead of EPA systems audits to gauge their readiness for an EPA systems audit. And they visit sites and observe practices and things like that, and evaluate sites for their signing criteria and things. And we got a successful report on that. Really good. And I wanted to also update you on AB Tech status. The kind of put the pouring the pad on hold until we can get a response from EPA. What has happened since we last met was that they had a question about the site, even though they had passively approved it before. I think someone else looked at it, and they were we wanted some more information about the fact that it was geographically close to the existing Big Creek site, and the state meteorologists prepared a response that really answered that question, I think, very well. They showed that different air mass being sampled there, that because of topography, they felt like it was important to have this one for that reason, and for the reason that they wanted to have a monitor where one of the ozone generation was happening here in the city. And so they prepared a response, and the state is finalizing that and getting ready to submit that to EPA. Of course, they're not working right now because of the shutdown, but they hope to have that ready for them when they do. I guess, I don't know, are they back now? They are back. Okay. Until recently, they've been. And so they're going to get sending the EPA that response, and hopefully you will hear something shortly after the first of the year. I think they're supposed to have a meeting. Is that right? I think they're going to have a meeting to discuss this too. So more to come. When I have more news on that, I'll share it. But they're very positive. They feel like I got a good response, and they just wanted some more information. They also had a question about another site that the state was establishing in Wilmington, so it's not common, and so I think I feel pretty good about that. But out of abundance of caution, we decided to wait on pointing the pad, that experience, and so. But we're still pursuing the permitting component of that, so we're ready. We do reach that point. I don't remember if I mentioned this last meeting, but we did take the E-band down that was at Fairview Elementary. The state had loaned us. We also had established a purple air monitor at the Fairview Library, and that's giving us data that we could telemeter. So, as she mentioned in her presentation, we weren't ever able to have connectivity with the E-bands, and so we were able to get the in real time. We had connectivity, but not in real time. So we made a decision with the state to go ahead and take that laser down. So I took that E-band back to Raleigh along with our ozone equipment last week before last in this. So I took our ozone equipment for recertification preparation for upcoming ozone season. We'll go back down in February when they have the ambient monitoring workshop, and we'll pick that equipment up. We're really thankful to the state for providing that service for us, to certify that equipment for us. And that was all I really had part of monitoring update. Question.
Where exactly is the site on Navy Tech's campus proposed specifically?
So, you know where the facilities building is?
Yeah.
Kind of off down in the hole.
Right.
It's right above that. They just built a retaining pond in this, what was a parking lot above the facilities building, and the monitor will sit on the edge of that pond, right on the edge of the hill.
Okay.
So there's an existing, that's where we have the toxics monitoring shed that ran until about 2 or 3 years ago. And,
okay.
They're going to actually, like I said, we're going to reestablish the toxics monitoring when the new building comes. So.
And the exciting thing was Steve took the Ford Lightning to Raleigh and back with all the equipment in it.
That's right. I'll mention that.
That was fun.
It went well. I did utilize the Tesla fast chargers, and that made the trip a lot easier. Just being limited to but I just made a plan to stop near Winston. I stopped at a different location on the way back. Can't remember when we go there.
How long would you have to charge?
So one thing I learned that I didn't know before the trip was that at Non-Tesla chargers, they'll only ramp up to 90%, and then they throttle during basically just very slow rate. So I didn't notice that the Tesla's charger, it likely 20 to 30 minutes, I was fully charged, and it seemed to give me 100%. But using the non-super Tesla supercharger, you know, it charged pretty quickly too, up to about 90, but then it started throttling and said, got some message, and it would take several hours to get to 100.
So you charge once up and once back, I guess.
You can do it that way. I did stop just because I attended a meeting en route, so I stopped near Old Fort. There's a place there.
It's the one study.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so
Parker Paget Road.
yeah, so I stopped there. And,
The only Stuckies I know that still exists, right?
yeah, and so I did stop possibly back, but I could have made it.
Gotcha.
I made it in one charge on the way down.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Yeah, question.
Thanks, Steve.
Facility permit renewals are next. City of Asheville, Water Resources Department. It's basically emergency engines.
Yeah, standby power generator. Any issues with that?
Move to approve. Yeah, very safe.
Here a second.
Second.
Second by Ned. Any further discussion? All's in favor of approving the renewal, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. We got Duke Energy. Your neck of the woods, Gary.
James, do you want to explain this one, please?
Well, as actually mentioned, oh wait, I don't know what you think, but the Duke has a PAL permit, and that permit basically is a limitation, basically a cap of a limitation on their emissions. They took it for PM10, and that cap is, I believe, 95 or 98 tons. When they take that cap, part of the process is they have to reassess their emission factors. And the emission factor, what that is basically is, okay, you're saying this engine produces X number of pounds per hour of a pollutant. They're saying this is our factor. Every 5 years, they have to reassert those factors, and they have to say, here's we're reasserting that these factors are recertifying these factors. These are and they presented that to us and said, these are our factors. This is what we believe are representative of what the emissions these units will create. When they did that, we had a slight disagreement on the emission factors they gave for units 5 and 7 when they burned gas, mainly because they were based off of manufacturer specifications and not actual testing data. And then they did provide us with some testing data, but that testing data was old. And so we asked them to test units 5 and 7. When I say that, they can test one unit as representative of both units because they're identical units. So they tested that unit to create a new emission factor. When we got the results for that changes their emission factor they use to calculate how much PM they're making to see if they're below that PAL limit. And you can do an administrative amendment to change that factor in their permit, and that's what they're doing now. So their factor did go up from, was it 6 pounds per hour to 10 pounds per hour roughly. So that will in the future will increase. So when they're saying this is how much units 5 and 7 ran, they're going to have to use that new emission factor. So it's going to, in a sense, make their emissions rise. They do have a pretty a decent amount of distance between. Gary was asking me about it. I went and looked afterwards. They're roughly in the upper 60s to getting close to 70 tons versus the 95 that they have. So there's some headroom there. But this will change things, and actually moving forward at some point they just submitted an application, so they probably are going to be reassessing that pile sometime in the future. But in the short term, and as far as that, like, this isn't really fundamentally changing anything about this permit. It's actually making them count their emissions differently in a way that's going to make their emissions go up. but it isn't changing anything fundamentally about the permit itself. So
There are 5 and 7 heating plants, generators.
no, they tested their peaking generators in 22 or 3. We had asked them to do that as well.
So 5 and 7 are the new baseload
Yeah, the new
units that run
baseload.
on gas with oil backup that replace the 2 coal units that shut down.
And of course, they submitted emission factors for the rest of their equipment, and we agreed with their assessment. Most of their equipment, EPA guidance says if they're not significant emitters, you don't necessarily have to do things like make them test. You can take manufacturers because the main bulk of their emissions for PM is units 5 and 7 when they're burning gas. So that's
Questions?
long of it.
Questions for James? Does this change their permit fees, any, James?
I-
As far as tonnage goes?
No, but yes. Because they'll be using a new emission factor for particulate matter, and they do get charged a tonnage fee. So in a sense, we could see an increase in the tonnage fee, a small increase in the tonnage fee, but their base fee does not change.
Move to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Ned. Any further questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes. Okay. Finally, we got the affordable tree men. Nice name. This is air curtain.
I did look at me. I can sort of get on this one.
Thanks,
it.
James.
As Ashley mentioned earlier, the ACIs, these air curtain incinerators have been operating in Buncombe County, burning waste debris from hurricane debris, and the folks like them so much that they want to keep. This is a tree cutting company. Their use for it is going to be taking tree trimmings and other things from their jobs, and instead of grinding it, we'll be burning some of it. It would be cheaper. I think some of this is also because options for going to stump dumps now are a little kind of not as easy. If you drove on Riverside Drive, you'll notice that Riverside Stump Dump, which used to be a place that a lot of folks in the county used, they can't take anything in. So it's harder for some of these companies now during Helene to dispose of. And again, this is 100% wood waste. It's not an incinerator of anything other.
You can only use so much mulch, right?
Right, exactly. And Ashley also pointed out, these guys have been operating under the no action assurance, and now are operating under the EPA changing the rules where they can still operate as burning emergency or during emergency times waste. But both these folks, and as you'll see, during our next meeting, we'll have another one. They like the use of it. Ashley mentioned back in 2019, the EPA. Nobody liked this at all, but the EPA, in their wise wisdom, thought that air curtain incinerators should have Title V permits. Florida ignores these rules, by the way, but North Carolina doesn't. If EPA puts it in the rules, we have to follow it. So these are Title V permits, and in 2019, as Ashley mentioned, we passed a general permit as showing that this is the permit. These would be the conditions for anything that would operate in Buncombe County. The state did it as well in 2019. So it's a way to more easily issue these permits, because some of these air curtain incinerators are just land clearing folks that are going to be on a job site for 3 weeks. And if you ask them to go through a normal general Title V permitting process, it'd be kind of ridiculous. The fees are also lower for these general Title V permits compared to regular Title V permits. The permit application is much smaller. It's an easier process for these folks to go through. And so that's what we have here is and size wise, this would be considered on the smaller side of the CISWI, which was the larger units, but the smaller side of the larger units. I went through several DAQ permits, and this was probably the smallest one. Most of those have slightly larger units. DAQ's issued probably 25 of these permits at least throughout.
At one time, we had 3 of those operating in the county. How many are actually operating now? We're in North Asheville, and where else?
North Asheville, Biltmore, and these folks on Asheville Affordable Treatment.
Where are these guys located, James?
They're on Charlotte Highway.
How many did we have at one time? We had 7 or we had a few more, but the other ones have stopped after the storm debris. And these 3 are the ones that I want to continue. I think we have 5 total or.
Yeah, I don't think we ever actually had any other ones run. We had ones that showed interest, but we actually in the county, I don't think we ever had any run other than these 3.
Except for the one at the Buncombe County landfill. They were only.
Yeah, 4. Yeah.
That one's gone now. They just rented it for a little while.
Any other questions? Motion by Gary,
Second.
second by Caitlin. Got it there. All right. Any further questions? Call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Okay, no new business. We'll move on to Amy and the legal counsel report.
2 matters. There is a pending enforcement action against a property at 960 North Fork Road that involves air quality as well as a couple other departments in the county. The property owner's name is Dennis Steins Banks. She's had repeat violations of burning. Ashley's office has filed violations over years before I got here. But she's finally been served after a couple of weeks, and the county will be proceeding on that action. Because she just got served today, I don't know if she plans to answer. She did not answer with her neighboring property, 988 North Fork Road. So we'll see. The other issue is that legal department has hired a new attorney, Suzanne David, who's actually in the very back. She will be taking over as Air Quality's legal counsel. I wanted to do the warm handoff. But Suzanne's got a lot of experience. We actually went to the same law school at the same time, but we didn't know it. And she's been working for Department of Health and Human Services. And so has a lot of government experience. And I know you're really going to like her, but her office is literally 6 feet from mine, or her desk is 6 feet. Our offices are mushed together. So you're welcome to call either one of us.
Welcome.
Are we saying goodbye to you?
Sort of. I mean, I'm around. So
We're one of the easier boards, aren't we?
it is. So, it's why, I mean, as I transition, like, there's a lot more trouble out of libraries than you might imagine. And Ashley does such a good job that she makes it easy on her legal counsel. So
Thank you.
Way to go, Ashley.
Try.
All right, thanks, Amy. Advisory committee, Ned, I guess not met since the last meeting.
Let's schedule a meeting for after the new year.
Yes, we need to do that. I'll get with you on that. I need to send out a message to everyone, thanking them for hanging in there with us and telling them that we'll be in touch soon.
A suggestion could be to look into best practices for mulch yards to avoid fires.
Well, there is that.
Okay. All right, last item, and then we'll get out of here, is set the agenda for the coming year, since we're at the end of 2025. We typically meet on the odd months of the year. So that's January, March, and on. What's the board's pleasure? We've been kind of all over the place over the years, I think, with frequency. We want to try to avoid the Buncombe County Commission meeting weeks typically.
Yes, and that's Tuesdays, the 2nd and 4th week. So we've been meeting Thursdays, the 2nd Thursday of each month, every other month.
We probably want to do a little more cross-checking. I mean, make a decision, but we will end up sharing a board meeting with Board of Elections, and they have a lot more meetings than this building has. But
Suggestion, after you coordinate with whoever you need to coordinate with, why not get with us, and then we'll schedule January meeting, February, or whatever.
As far as I know, they don't meet in the afternoon at 4, so we haven't had conflicts with that so far.
Other departments that I've talked to, I don't think any of them have set meetings on Thursdays, except for Board of Elections. They do not normally have set meetings, but just as they get closer to election time, they'll start having meetings, I think, every day. So that's just something that we can't really account for that, but based on like tax and planning, I don't believe there were any conflicts on Thursdays.
Right.
Well, since primaries start in February, they may be more active.
What about the idea of setting a meeting for January and then kind of seeing how it lays out after that?
Yeah, I was also thinking that since we only meet 6 times a year, if we go ahead and put it on the calendar, then
Yeah.
they can work around us, or if they need to kick us out of the room, if we need to come meet in the alternate location because elections kind of is in the premium position, then, we can do that. But having the meetings on the calendar, I think, would be helpful.
What about the second Thursday at 4:00? Or as a marker? That's the 8th in January.
Sounds
Does that
good.
work?
Mhm.
Put that out there. You guys go with that?
Good.
All right. Do we need a motion to approve the schedule? I guess we motion.
So
Motion.
moved. Second.
Ned'll do the second. Gary will do the motion. All's in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Passes. Motion to adjourn. Oh, how about comments from board members? I don't guess we have any public comment. Do we over there?
No.
Say that. Say the- Comments from board members. Been a challenging year, but a good year. I think we've accomplished a lot.
I think so.
Thanks to capable staff out there and Ashley's leadership.
Thanks to all the staff and their hard work, and congratulations again to Mike.
Yeah. Don't be a stranger, Mike.
Thank you.
Come on back. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Somebody by Ned,
Second.
second by Caitlin.